Okay.
Okay, it's recording. Okay, sorry. Here you go.
Okay. And I just, all I know, I mean, I have not known how to deal with this. I mean, we brought Missy in because she had been with the organization for a while, and I kind of leaned on her a lot of times when Cheryl wasn't around or whatever and then once Cheryl was no longer past president, to kind of bounce some ideas off of too, because I also felt like there's a certain amount of equilibrium kind of thing, level-headedness or whatever, that sometimes I don't always exhibit or I can't always feel, or I feel like I don't know enough of all the big scope the same way. And so she was kind of brought into this too. And so John Henry's been was talking about, you know, the fact that he was deliberately addressed in ways that were very unprofessional, beginning over a year ago. And we all remember this tweet, right? Y'all remember when Carla brought all this up? That
Was
was a
this
big
the
part
beer
of it.
tweet or was this
Yeah,
something else? Yeah,
yeah,
the
it was
beer
the
tweet.
one that was put in there. And basically, and he was the one that had, I mean, the fact that they were, NESTA was kind of attacked and all this kind of thing, and then he was kind of chastised, and he describes it as verbally berating, without actually really talking to him, and also some things that were going on at the same time. And then this part where she calls him yelling and screaming. See, that's not the first time she's done that to people. In fact, I have not called her sometimes because I didn't want to be the brunt of that. I know
Hmm.
she did it to Cheryl, um, eh,
Quite a bit.
quite a bit, quite a bit, and I refuse. I won't listen to it. I will not put myself in the situation. I just want to do it.
I just won't answer the
Um,
phone when she
I won't
calls.
answer the phone. I'll ignore. If she's calling because she's not happy about something that's an email exchange, I'm not answering the phone.
What's
Um,
interesting about her calling is she'll not leave messages, and so if she'll
you
call
don't know why
basically,
she's calling.
you don't know why she's calling, and she'll literally, blow up my answering machine, or at least the caller ID. There'll be
Hmm.
6 or 7 calls, and some of them are late in the evening, but that's
Yeah,
not really a factor because I freely admit you can call me until midnight. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like if you've missed me, leave a message, ask me to call because I've dodged some calls too. It's like, but
Yeah.
when this whole brouhaha started, there was the whole shing of emails that I had not read that day because I had other stuff going on, and she got a hold of me, and so
As
I,
we all did. We're like, at work, and I get
yeah,
a chance, a breather, and I happen to start seeing stuff just flowing. I'm like, huh? You know? But it's mostly about pattern. Okay, that's really what we have to look at here is this pattern. And while yes, there are some things that perhaps John Henry could have reacted differently or things like that. This has not just been isolated to him. It's just been public, and he's just been one that has said, instead of leaving the organization and walking away or doing those things, he said, I'm not going to put up with that. And so he said something about it, and he tried to keep it just with us. But when she started to involve you guys by responding and putting the whole EC on when it wasn't initially there, like I had initially was trying to do it in a small group on out of respect for her. Like I wanted to talk to her. I wanted us, the smaller group, to talk to her before we brought it to the executive board, executive committee, so that it before it became this big official thing. Do you know what I mean? Like you want to talk to me. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's biblical, and that's kind of what I do. And that's, you talk close with the people first, and you say, hey, what's going on? You know, can we? Is there something that we can do? Is there something we don't understand? Here's what we're experiencing. Here, what people are telling us, because John Henry was getting some emails and had heard some feedback from people. I had gotten some things as well, and it was like, okay, I'm trying to digest what's coming in, and then determine what's the best way to approach it, because again, you're hearing from other people and not from her. So I tend to try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I tend to try to be diplomatic if I can. I think that's a really important thing, especially when you don't know always what's going on. I know she's had a lot of stuff going on too, and I get that. But this is not just recent. This stuff has been happening for years, and people outside of our organization have made comments here and there, and it's just been kind of this cumulative thing over the time that I've been involved that I hear this, I hear this, I hear this, and now we're hearing specifics with words, things that Cheryl told me numerous times as we roomed together at conferences and things. And I think that Carla's been very valuable in a lot of ways, but I think right now she's being very harmful to our organization, at least in what in this kind of setting here, because there are people like Susan Kelly, which we know she's her own powerful personality. Okay, she has her own thing too, but like she's not running again, and she won't run again until Carla's out or has less to do with it, and that's what she said specifically in email. And there are things that when she got run out from Tess, the stuff about Tess, this has been a big issue. This is one of the things I wanted to do, and I told this to Rick and Misty, is I want her away from Tess. I want her removed completely. I don't want her to have it. I want an editor-in-chief. I think we need to find one. I wanted to go and see about, what we thought about finding somebody in our board of directors that would be willing to be that point person. So we have all these associate editors now, to be the person that kind of does the reminders and that touches base with all of them and all that, and not having that on her plate.
Well, I think one of the points that John Henry does make that I think is valid is that she has a tendency to take over things, and then
yes,
she's got
the
so much on her
delegation
plate.
piece.
She's got so much on her plate that there's no way to keep all of the balls juggled in the air at the same time. And I'm curious as to how much Tina Hart actually does with regards to the e-news. I don't know, but I've never ever had an email from Tina Hart with anything regarding the e-news.
So Tina does do it, and she sends out reminders and stuff. She assembles it, but so much of it sometimes is waiting on things that, and I'll be honest, a lot of times it's been waiting on my message, and I'm like, y'all just put it out there. If I don't get it, just do it, okay, whatever, okay, because Belinda's it's not, the calendar notifications were not coming up. They were supposed to be set with it, and I gotta have a reminder because I got 5,000 balls in the air myself, especially at the beginning of the school year, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, but I'm okay if that, if once in a while there's not something there, especially when I was asked last minute for the test thing. So.
The thing is too, and I agree with you, Belinda, but when you're super swamped, and I will take full responsibility for not kind of thinking about this, because I've been in your shoes. I mean, I really am, and I started I think a week before you guys or something like that, but when the message from the president is supposed to come out every month, because that's kind of what we're supposed to do. If I mean, a little kind of late now, but if you are, if you can always email me and say, hey, can you, do you have time to put something in, a couple paragraphs?
It doesn't take long once I know. But I usually would get this reminder, hey, I'm waiting for this, and it was the day before, and it's or the day of.
I know. I mean, if I hadn't put a reminder in my own calendar, so
I know, and I thought I had, but I have to double check mine because it's not. Yeah. I've been having weird fun stuff too, but anyways, that's
I looked at my calendar and it's why is there a number 1 there? And I was like, oh. I got to do that today.
But the other piece, so that was one thing. So the delegation. So Tom and I had a phone conversation too after our last, I guess it was the board meeting or whatever, and he and I talked about some of this, and we were talking about the fact that we just redirecting her toward what we said when we did her evaluation and when we looked back at procedures manual about what are the duties of the ED. Okay, what are the duties, and just keeping her there to those duties, because that's where we needed her to be, not into every single other thing out there that we do. Because what was happening is the things that she is supposed to be doing. Okay, for instance, this is sort of a little thing, but no, it's not really, because GSA is next week. Okay, go on the Joint Societies meeting on Monday morning, I think. And I got an email from Lee Sutherland today saying, here's the agenda, here's the supplemental book or whatever of our societies. And what they did this year was, instead of requesting a slide for their slideshow that they have, where they run and you have a slide for each organization, submits a slide, says what we're doing, all that kind of thing, updates for the year, any accolades, whatever. It puts the face out there, right? So last year, Cheryl and I, Cheryl was a guest at this one too. She came as past president, and then, I mean, Carla didn't even show up till, I don't know what, she was late. We didn't know where she was. We were like, where is she? And we didn't have a slide, and she told us she had made one, or that she had sent one. So we weren't even out there. Like, we're listed in their thing, but we weren't out there. So this year, I asked her, I sent an email when they first sent, I said, did you RSVP for this? Are you making the supplemental note or whatever that was being requested? And she's like, yes, I've already RSVP'd, and she was going to do this. Well, when this email came today with this, I was like, oh, I'm so glad this came. And I looked at it, and not as many, like, I think the way they did this year was fewer people probably got that in, but we weren't in it. And AGT was, though, and I'm like, don't tell me you're going to do things and then you're not doing them. And that's kind of part of that, the representation and being our spokesperson and all of that piece, that organization contact and all. I think that part was really important. I think that's missing of an opportunity to say, hey, this is where we're doing, this is where we are, this is what we're doing. And the thing that John Henry has said a lot about is the website and the fact that it's not updated and things are not, put in place, and all those kinds of things, like some of the professional development stuff that they were talking about. They couldn't find this. Stuff's on here is outdated and blah, 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 blah. And that's because she didn't want to train anybody. And he mentions this in here about not wanting to train people to do it. And I'm like, it's not that hard. I mean, I can do some of it, but I didn't volunteer to do it because I know I don't have the time. Okay. As I have the time, if I go on there and I happen to just be in my free time, like looking, and I see something, I'm like, oh, that's something I can fix, like a editing thing or something. I can't do, like, I don't know what it is, like, coming up sometimes of webinars and things like that. I can't do that piece of it, but I can do things like update an email or update I can do those things because I know the management system pretty well. I'm a little rusty, and it takes me a little longer sometimes because I haven't used it as much, but for 5 years I was in a curriculum project where I was using it regularly in the summers. But Elaine is on there, and she's never utilized her, and Elaine knows that really, really well because she's the one who kept up the Dig Texas stuff, and that's on Circ's LMS as well, or CMS as well. And so, just it's those kinds of things that have been happening. But the biggest thing that is really, I mean, and for this whole time, John Henry said, I'm not calling for her to be gone or anything like that. I'm not saying she shouldn't be in her position. I'm just saying that this can't keep happening. And all of these concerns, especially with the unprofessional behavior that is damaging to, it's so disrespectful to people, and things like, and I hesitate to say some things because it's not in the writing. This is directly from him, so we can talk to those. I guess for some things that I've been told by Cheryl, and I don't know how many of you have been told by her, but I would say that anything I said would still just be hearsay. So, right, Parker? If I shared stuff that she told me that happened when they were rooming together?
Yeah, unless it comes out of Cheryl's mouth directly, then it is, but
Okay.
it still would be valuable to have.
It gives us perspective.
The perspective, as long as we keep it in the
just because this is being recorded.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question. So, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She just
well,
talked
this
about.
This is going to be recorded, and the only people that'll conceivably ever want to retrieve it are how many of us are here.
Okay.
Because it's going to be
I
on the
make
cloud
sure
in my account.
I'm not into totally talking about people behind their back and things like that. I just want to make sure we're doing everything the way we're supposed to do it too. So, again, I haven't been in this kind of territory before, really. Not really. It's rather uncomfortable for me. I'm gonna tell you that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
huh?
I said,
Yeah.
oh, yes.
It's very
We've had
uncomfortable.
drama before, but it's
Oh,
never
well, and
pleasant.
that's humans. I mean, of course there's going to be drama, and I get that. I guess I just am the idealist in that I always feel like, wow, we're grown-ups, really we can dial down the drama some, but things like, I mean, what he talks about, when he talks about like at conferences about the drinking piece and all that I've witnessed. Okay, I've witnessed changes in erratic behavior because of that. That happens to people. I've been loosey goosey a couple times too, but not to the point of like, when she at ER, the reason Cheryl would never, I mean, she roomed with her twice. That second time that she's talking about the lockout, that was the second time. The first time, it was after the first time, I was like, Cheryl, why did you even room with her again? Because the first time was at ER where she would not refuse to let her sleep because she was yelling at her to like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, and she's insisting that she talks to her and is saying like using cuss words and all this kind of thing at her, and you're like nowhere to go. I mean, it's not okay. And some of the emails we've seen, I mean, I know she doesn't sleep. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't take regard for her health at all. She doesn't sleep. She sends things at 3 a.m. I mean, there's so much of that. And I get that everybody's got their thing, but you can also set emails to go out at a certain time, whether or not you're working on it. I mean, if I sent out things like that, my district would be like, why are you? And I granted she's not being, it's not a job, but I mean, it's like, come on. I accidentally hit send once and I was like, oh, sorry. But I try not to do that at all or respond at those times, and I later or whatever. But
I have a countdown clock when I hit send, so that it
yeah.
gives me about 10 seconds to kind of calm down and then unsend
Right.
it.
So, I mean,
Because there's a lot of stuff that I've sent that I unsended.
oh, I can't do that because
It
Google
just makes
doesn't
me feel
do
good to
that.
push send, and then I'm all
No,
right.
I just save it and just don't send. And Tom was like talking about that too. He was like, yeah, you can just after the barrage of the last emails, he was like, you could just type it, but don't hit send. It's
Yeah.
like just don't send it. And so it's just it's made us kind of question. I mean, I know there's so many things going on with her, and I get that everybody's got that, but it's made us question to what degree she's able to fully perform the duties of her role, with all of that. And we've questioned stability. We've questioned. I mean, that's come up. I don't usually do that. I don't use that. I think other people use it really loosely. I think some of them come to that conclusion really quickly. I've heard it for the last 2 years, and it's recently that I've started to kind of go, oh, okay, you know, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. This is why we're meeting because I would like to know what you guys are thinking, and especially like Howard. I haven't gotten to
Well, that's
talk
a
with
really
you,
good
and
question
you
because
know,
what I think can change from day to day and hour to hour depending on my interactions
I know
too. Um,
exactly.
so so so
She hasn't
the
gone off
whole
on me really, except in that email a little bit, but
yeah, and for the most part, you know, she's she needs me to do stuff, and so she's generally pretty um, even keel with me so far. She hasn't actually. The person that really chewed my ass out was Cheryl a couple times,
mm,
and I didn't even know why. I just was like, okay, obviously I did something dumb, but that happens. Everybody's got their way of doing stuff. Um, be that as it may, I think one of the things that we need to think about is that um, as an executive director, we really need to rein. What I'm hearing you say is we really need to rein in her the number of balls that she has in the air. I think that um, keeping Carla in a role where she works to get us grants and funding from those kinds of sources, I think is something that she actually can do for us. I think that there are a lot of other areas that we need to figure out a way to um, gracefully encourage her to move away from those things.
Well, at this
Because
point, Rick,
I
I'm
don't
almost
want to
not
just.
sure that we can gracefully encourage her. I think we need to tell her. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
know,
honestly, we're
and
at that.
I do.
We're
I
at that
agree
point.
with you. I agree with you. I just thought it.
I think we've
I
already
don't.
tried to
I'm
be the
not an
graceful.
ulcer kind of guy, but this could give me an ulcer to say we're going to ask for your resignation because
No, no, no,
we're
no.
at
I'm not
we're at the
saying that.
point.
No, but I do think we can say you are not in control of this anymore. I think we can say you can't be a part of this anymore. This is
Well,
not
that's what I'm
something
saying. I
you
think
can.
having her be in charge of the grants and that kind of stuff, I think is real important. If we could reduce the amount of things that she feels obligated to do, then we might not. She
We have
might
no
not be.
control over her
Yeah,
feelings,
I
though. That's the
know. No,
thing.
no, no, no.
Right.
But I mean within our
No,
organization.
but that's exactly what these really ended up being. This is all a result of her feeling this and then refusing
Yeah.
to get the other piece is like, she takes over, this idea that we're ex officio members of every committee. It doesn't mean we are members of every committee. And she doesn't seem to get that. And I purposely am like, okay, I'm an ex officio and I may check in on you sometimes, but I'm not going to all those meetings. No,
Yeah,
you can
precisely.
do that.
I mean, I don't.
We've got capable people who are interested, who want to do it. I want them to do it. We are a team. This is not my organization. This is our organization.
That's
You know?
Well, and I
Yeah.
think John Henry's point is valid that she has a tendency to take over. So if she's on a committee meeting, um, then
She'll be
it's going to
running the
be,
meeting.
you know,
What'd you say, Howard?
That if she's on the meeting very quickly, she can take over the meeting.
Yes. And she's been doing that a lot. And if you saw, I don't know, he mentioned the stuff about the regional director meeting, right? Like they wanted to just meet without her. They wanted to talk. They wanted to be able to talk. We have regional directors who did not feel comfortable, like they could say anything
Yep.
if she was there. But they couldn't use Zoom without her being on. This is why the other pieces, I want us to disentangle. I think we're supposed to have separate NESTA things that aren't.
Yeah. So here's the deal. You know this account that I just gave you access to, the
Uh-huh.
Blue Jeans account.
Yeah.
You don't have to be here in Hawaii or me to like get on that number. If you just happen to be the first one there, then somebody else shows up. It's always on. It's just,
Huh.
I mean, it's always open. It's just you have to dial into it. And so I can schedule meetings and then you get an email that says you've been invited, or I can just say, like for NSTA, I'm on a couple committees at NSTA, and the committee chair has my Blue Jeans account, and they just send it out, and it
Right.
sends
So
me an
you
email
don't
that
have
says,
to
"Hey,
actually the host doesn't have to get on and do that.
no,"
So
unless you want me to set it up that way, and then you're the
Right.
host.
Yeah. So like yes, this one right here where it says that the whole idea was that she promised to open it and get off as soon as they were all there, and that she said it, and then she didn't, and then she, jumps in and talks, and then all the people got quiet and they didn't talk anymore. And
sad.
I think that's incredibly wrong. We have some wonderful people that never get to speak and we never hear from them. This is part of why I was really trying to get the whole updates at the beginning of the board meetings, because I want to hear from our directors. I want to hear from the rest of the board. I want to hear some other ideas. And I feel like I think because this has been this almost steamrolling into a one-man show for a little bit there, even I sometimes would get somewhat steamrolled until I said, no, okay, we need to move on.
and that's been a executive director
Yeah.
versus president thing dating back to Frank Ironton. I mean, Tom Irvin had
Well,
some
and
contentious.
I get some.
No, but I mean, there's a dynamic there because we have an overlap in the roles and responsibilities. But
right.
I think the point
And that's
is,
fine. A lot of times I like her to lead because it's like, she knows what it is, something that was brought to her attention, and I'm totally okay with that. That's never really a big thing. I just know that we've had in the past, I know that there's sometimes where it was like Cheryl would totally like, hey, excuse me, because she would talk over or whatever kind of thing. But she doesn't do that as much with me. I don't know if it's because I don't know what the dynamic's a little different with us. Um, but just the fact that people don't feel like they can speak because she's on a call or she's on a committee is really that's really damaging because I think there is a lot of good that is untapped that we're not being able to do as a result.
I'm not shy, and still the last board meeting, the first thing I did was raise the issue that the budget discussion shouldn't be the last thing, and everything was supposed to be real quick, and
Sorry.
Yeah,
it
that
got
was
to be the
annoying.
Carla show again, and we
I'm
left.
sorry too. That was mine.
Yep.
So.
Well, but
I tried to make it like really like put the things in that I know, but I put that in. It was supposed to be closer to the front, and something got pushed because she and I didn't meet to do the agenda. I tried to do it as much myself, and then she went in and added things. So later, very later, like at the very last second later.
And I think the three of us who did meet on that met like the day before, so it was really short notice too.
It was.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, I mean, and what we looked at, the spreadsheets that you presented to us, I mean, it all made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But
it
true
wasn't
budget,
like we were trying to, sorry, Missy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a true budget, though, shows what you did last year and then what you're projecting to do this year,
Yeah.
and the differences from what you
didn't,
spent. And we have not seen that since she's done budget. When Roberta
Yes,
always gave us
true.
that.
and she's doing the taxes now too, which
Yeah. Transparency was one of those things that was in her evaluation that I think needs to rise to the top. I just brought up, I'm going to cut in for a second if you don't mind. I just brought up the procedures manual and executive director description. And it's everything that's in here is everything that she's controlling right now. So it oversees the production of print and web-based NESTA products such as peer-reviewed journal, e-news, social media postings, and website features. Promotes, coordinates, and facilitates professional development experiences, works to maintain financial integrity of NESTA, which is fine, communicates and collaborates with other professional associations, yada, yada. That we haven't seen. Well, actually, she does do some of that with NOAA. She's got in pretty good with Bruce with there. Where appropriate, applies the external funding to support NESTA's effort, and in concert with President, the Executive Director acts as a spokesperson and representative for NESTA. I think what we have a question about is probably the first two, which is overseeing the production of the print and web-based NESTA products and promotes and coordinates, facilitates professional development experiences.
Agreed.
And I agree,
Those
Missy.
are items that need to be delegated.
Right, because oversee doesn't mean own
Control.
and run.
Right. I mean, you
So
can you could say that I'm overseeing some of that. Yeah, okay, this isn't getting done, so I'm going to say something about it. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and do it. It means there needs to be somebody else there doing the actual day-to-day job part of it, or the week. So.
When it came to overseeing the earth scientist, when David was running it, and David and Susan were coordinating it, that's where I think she oversaw it, but that's when she didn't know how to appropriately handle a situation. I have no idea what happened with Tess at that period of time. All I know that it was an ugly situation amongst the three of them. And we pretty much lost David, and we're losing Susan.
Right.
And I think, I don't know that she knows how to oversee. I think she looks at overseeing as controlling.
I would agree with that.
So we're half an hour into the call, and I think we're probably all in agreement about the issues of delegation and the ability to handle confrontation appropriately with adults are probably a couple of the key aspects of our concerns. Were there others? And then the second piece with that is how shall we address this, just so we have kind of a roadmap for tomorrow evening?
I really do want to know how we're going to address, first of all, tomorrow, because I think in addition, I mean, some of these are things that are a result of these issues we're having with her, but then some of these other things are a whole nother, to me, they're almost a separate matter because they're about treatment of other people to a certain degree.
Yeah, some of the issues you can't deal with in just in one day either.
No, you can't. You can't. You really can't. So I don't want to lose John Henry. Is one of the things too that I've thought because ever since he got on board, he was one of the people that I saw to have some potential for coming up in our line, and as bringing that youth into the organization, people still in the classroom, excited, really excited. It makes me sad, and I don't like to just put emotion on that, but it does. It makes me sad to kind of see him kind of beaten down by this. And it's painful to know that being involved in the organization has resulted in that. And so I don't want it, and I also don't want him to think, because he's kind of alluded to this, that he feels like we'll address on this other piece, which we do, we have to, and that's part of what the other, but that we won't even address the rest. And that's kind of what I've gotten from him, I feel like, even though I've said, no, we're not going to ignore it. But it is a big situation that can't be handled in one meeting or one day, for sure. So.
Well, no, in his PDF letter basically is calling for Carla's resignation.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but initially he wasn't that way. But now that he's sat back and thought and all these things.
I mean, there are clearly issues to address, and some of them have been ongoing. And it's difficult to imagine how you diffuse the situation to where he's going to feel comfortable in continuing. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned that this kind
I'm
of
sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm wondering if there's a kind of a timeline that we can give Carla, and then and then, but also ensure that John Henry's okay. And I don't know, you would expect that after the evaluation, when she was given the evaluation, that she would have addressed them. But in the 2 years that she's had the evaluation, she hasn't done anything. But
Well,
maybe there's
and
some
we did an evaluation again last year, and I don't think there was really much that was resolved from it. There were some of the same comments that members made.
I mean, we did get a few things. We did get an issue or two of tests, and we did get something to look at that we see that is to us. So we have something, because before when they would talk about stuff, I was like, I don't know, because I can't see anything. I have no access to nothing. And, so we got a little something, but yeah, I don't think we got to the degree that our expectations were, for sure.
And the current one of the and like the current test that's supposed to come out, the one that was supposed to come out like in August, that's the online version.
It was originally supposed to come out in June.
Yeah, like the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And or even before school was out or something, I don't know. It was because it reflects everything that was done in like April and May. And I sent her 3 emails about that, and because I have a question, because I'm up for a promotion and I have to have the information by the end of this week. And finally, I was talking to her today because I needed to get access to and I told Parker and Howard this, to get access to the SurveyMonkey, because now it has multi-factor access, and it sent an email to her with a code, and I needed the code, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt. But I asked her, I said, hey, by the way, could you tell me what pages that it's on and when it might be available? Oh, yeah, I'll get you an email today. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'll just delete it out of my dossier, but it's kind of a pain because I need it, And you all know this is the thing that we find is that we're expected to drop everything and jump for Carla, but she's not exactly really quick sometimes to respond to our needs. And I get that because she lives in a different world than we do, but it's a two-way street here, folks.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And it seems to always be that, well, we're doing the final layout for it, or I'm waiting for one more article it's got an extra paragraph. It's like, come on, there's got to be a deadline.
Yeah.
Well,
I,
I sent that email out asking for input on the Cincinnati meeting, which was essentially most of them were Carla questions, but I CC'd the entire executive committee
Yeah, I remember seeing
and
that.
Yep.
nary a response. Because I want to help out with getting Sherathon presenters, and I need to
Sure.
know, is there a place for them
Right.
to sign up?
I thought we had.
I couldn't find it. I mean, I looked on the website. As I mentioned in the message, but
Gee,
Yeah, I was informed today that she was trying to set up a Sherathon Survey Monkey for everybody, but was having trouble with it too. And so that's all I can tell you is what she
Okay.
told me.
I haven't talked to her, so.
but
It,
that
it
was
shouldn't have been
something
that hard because they're already there from the few years
Yeah, you
before.
just
You just
recopy
change
them
the
and you copy them and
exactly.
really not that hard.
I know I work with the people over at Page Designs on another journal, and I know they're waiting for part of this journal to come in. She's got most of it put together, but there's still some pieces she's waiting for
Mhm.
as of about 10 days ago when I talked to her.
For which one? Which edition?
The one that should be out now, and I haven't received the request for payment yet. Normally, this one is, I believe, is supposed to be a mailed copy. I haven't received something from the
Well, the
printer.
online copy's not even up yet. The mailed copy, she said, would be coming out.
She said she should have it ready to go last week, but
Oh, I thought that was going
Right.
to be.
a week is a relative term.
Yeah.
But I know the printing people have not requested payment for the postage yet on that either, so I know it's not ready to go beyond
Right.
and go
And
out.
we're supposed to be getting out postcards for the online ones. I mean, we're supposed to be getting those so that people know. I mean, we're supposed to know when their online issues are ready and all that too. I know I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen one in a while.
You're
Well,
right.
we can beat this dead horse. So
Right, I know.
Missy's correct. We've got to come up with something definitive that we can present. And I think that Missy, you made the comment about timeline, and I wholeheartely agree. And I'm not sure what the timeline should be, but I think honestly, if we need to give her, 4 months or 6 months, whatever it happens to be, we got to give her some time because
On
that's
tests, I don't want to give her that much
well,
time.
no,
Greg.
I mean,
Just in
whatever. I'm
general.
just saying in general because if we don't see demonstrated changes in the interpersonal relations, the
Oh, yeah, okay,
professionalism,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
that kind of stuff within
Overall.
a X number of weeks or months, then we're gonna have to have a
Start
come to
looking for another
Jesus
director.
meeting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna have to start
I
looking for
don't
another
know a
director.
nice way to say that.
Well, there isn't one, but she hasn't exactly been very nice.
So, a quick question.
Yeah.
Is she in contract with us for X amount of time, or is this an open-ended contract with her?
I think it's-
It was
I
pretty
don't
much
know
open-ended, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I
And
know.
I don't know if we renew it every year or not. That's a great question. I'm glad you
Howard
asked that,
was
Missy,
just
because I don't
saying
know.
Yeah, I would have to look up. I have the contract somewhere on the computer. I'd have to look it up and
Okay.
see what that is. But I know that when it was done, there were like three people we tried to get to interview on, and only two interviewed, and she was the strongest of the two. And part of it's because of the fact it's a non-paid position.
Right.
Exactly.
Wasn't
Yep.
Susan Kelly with the other one of the other
Yes,
ones?
she was.
Yes.
She was. Yep.
And I don't think her interview was that well done when we did the online interview either.
Well, Carla definitely had this street cred and the breadth that we needed.
Yes.
So
And there are some good things she's done. I'm not. That's why I've said this like the whole time. Anytime anybody's said anything against her or whatever, I was like, oh, she's brought this. I hesitate to do anything here.
going back to the contract idea, how about if we instill a 1-year contract
That's a
and that
really, really, really good idea.
and that will give her a chance to break away, us to break away from her and seek out another person. If we find that after 6 months that there's things are just not changing and we're losing board members, we're bleeding board members, as John Henry puts it, then we know that, okay, within 6 months, we better, get on the hightail to find somebody else.
Yep. Missy, I am very much in agreement with that way of approaching it, because it gives everybody the ability to leave, if need be, at least in a professional manner.
Right.
It's not like we're saying, okay, you're done in 2 weeks.
No, I mean, and I've never said that. That's what she.
No, I know you haven't, but I'm just saying that I don't want her. I mean, I would hate to have her say, "Fine, I'm going to quit." I mean, that could happen, and we figure it out on our own. But I know Missy be a great executive director, and she's not busy.
Not at all.
I like Missy's recommendation, and I'm not, and I don't know. I mean, we have enough for a quorum. We could probably make a decision to do that. But I think that having Howard take a look at the current contract, so that we actually know the language, and find out when the renewal of the contract would be, or if it's just a rolling contract. That's stuff I don't know, and I think it would be helpful to know that before we actually make that decision.
And now I know it is. I'm sorry, Howard. Go ahead.
What I have found right now is the contract we issued to Roberta in July of 2012, and I can send a copy of that out because that's something we can work from too. I've still got to look and find hers.
Okay.
And now I know it is unpaid, and all technically, but we now have a stipend. That was built in the budget, correct, Howard? Yes.
That stipend, though, is money that's coming from the grants that she has gotten for us.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, and if she didn't have grants, then she wouldn't be getting it.
Right, and that's what we said before. Like, y'all said Roberta, that was how she got paid herself, was for getting grants to do so. And all.
Absolutely, that was the way she did.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But there's something in there for that. So, and then.
Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I was going to say the issue of the stipends for the e-news editor. Both Tom and I don't remember that happening, so we somehow missed that. But there's an example where comparing one year to another year would be helpful. One of the other things I'm concerned about is we've been paying for a full membership for Wild Apricot, and I don't know what we've been doing with that. Because
in order to transfer over to Wild Apricot.
And we lost a board member that was going to do that for us. I'll let you know that. So.
I mean,
who was the one that was doing that?
Nobody was doing it, but we had somebody that volunteered that was on our board, and she just kind of took a look at what's happening in our board and said she's backing out after the first year, so she's not with us any longer.
Okay, maybe I'm clueless here.
But I mean, NESTA has switched over, and it runs we've got the two websites, but it runs our e-news comes out of Wild Apricot.
It can do all your emails too. I mean, it's got listservs. It's got all kinds of power.
It does not have listservs. It has a mailing service.
Right, and that's what I use. Well, I don't anymore, but for the Hawaii science teachers, that's what they use, and it works really well. It's like almost idiot proof, but you gotta learn it.
Yeah. But and it hosts our website as well, and so to think that we're paying $7,000 for Cirque and then 14 something for Wild Apricot, we haven't really been making good progress on that transition at all. And that's something that I would like to see her. I'd rather see her focus on the website than Tess. And I would also point out, in the old days, there was a board member who was the Share-a-thon coordinator. That was kind of like one of those appointed director sort of roles that existed out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, those are all things. So I think, I like the idea of the timeline. Do you think that this is something that we need to approach her with? So tomorrow, tomorrow is meeting with John Henry and Carla, and all of us. So at that meeting, what?
I don't think it's unreasonable to ask. Maybe we should ask her what pieces of this puzzle she's willing to give up. And we could, say, we recognize your overwork. We recognize you've taken on all this responsibility. These are some of the areas that we would like to see you be, in an advisory role as opposed to being running in charge of. Which of these would you be willing to give up? If we could just pry her hands away from Tess, that could make things move forward a little bit, and then say, I think maybe we need to have a private conversation with her about the contract.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Not everybody.
well, but who? Because basically everybody.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think.
John Henry's on the executive committee, so
Yes, and he's
awkward.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know what I mean?
Well, no, I mean, it
on
could
the
come up
executive
tomorrow,
committee. We're wrapped. So, or one of the board
and
members.
that's fine. I mean, that's the whole transparency thing, right?
Yeah.
We need to be equally transparent.
I'd like to see her give up social media as well as Tess.
I don't have an argument one bit with that, Missy.
And I think we need to come up with some, if we're going to try and salvage John Henry, we're going to have to come up with some specific buffering system to where he doesn't have to deal with her.
Mm-hmm. True. And even though to me it seemed very middle school, the Rick gets the email from John Henry. Rick sends an email to Carla. Carla sends an email to Rick. Rick sends the email to John Henry. Felt like the Harry Potter thing where, Hermione says, "Geez, I'm not an owl."
Oh yeah.
People. But it worked. We got the information across and we were able to get her access. It did create more angst, but as far as I know, John Henry has full access with two-factor security back to the Twitter account. And so that crisis averted. It was a pain in the ass on my part, but we got it done.
One of
if I need to be that person, if I need to be the what do you want to call it, the mediator, I'll take on that role because I have a thick skin.
One of the things that we've spoken about with a few of you, if not everybody, is the idea of going at least too deep when you're with her. And so when she's confronting, if she's got a beef with somebody, that she's got to go too deep, that somebody else needs to be on that call with her and with that other person.
Yeah, because there have been too many private calls that she has verbally abused people.
Yeah,
that's exactly
absolutely.
what it is. She says she's not bullying, but that's exactly how everybody has classified it.
Yeah.
And there's another step to that, her plan too, because I think she has people on the board or the executive committee that she has determined would be allies, and so she'll call and try and
exactly
beef up support and marshal the troops in her favor so that there are.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it seem to some of us sometimes, like when all that was going on, I'll be honest, that it made me hesitate for a minute to talk to some of you because I kind of felt that way. But then at the end of the day, I was encouraged that at the end of the day, I think most people here it's not about a person, or we're not here for a person. We're here for NESTA. And that's what it's all about. And that's where everything's kind of lost sight. And that's why this has all been kind of just mind-blowing to me, because this is an organization, and yes, it's an organization of people, but it's an organization that has supposed to have a bigger picture and a greater impact, and this is like into individual things going. The nya, as my sorority sister would always say, is just stupid, and for lack of a better word, I mean, sometimes I'm still in disbelief about some of the antics to a certain degree, because I just
It reminds me of
never have
middle
expected
school.
that. So yeah, and I taught middle school, and so I know, and I'm
I
like,
did
that's not
too.
what I
That's why it
thought.
reminds me of it.
I teach high school, and I've got some that act like middle schoolers, but a lot of them have disabilities, and so they have somewhat of an excuse. So
Now maybe that's what we're missing is the disability.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just know that it's not. I mean, I saw myself as long term whatever, but I'm kind of with. Cheryl may be pursuing her doctorate, but that was just a convenient excuse. That's why she's pulled away and got out. It has nothing to do with that. It's because of this. And it's just people find, it's just is a convenient route, an excuse.
Believe me, I have plenty of other things I could be doing other than
Yeah.
going through the
So,
misery. But I want
and
to
I
see
plan
the
to pursue my
organization.
doctorate too, just FYI.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to see the organization survive and go
but I
through
want to
this
stay in this.
and maintain. Yeah.
Me too. Me too. Big time.
And unfortunately, tomorrow I'm going to be in another meeting that
I know.
involves lots and lots of
Which
money.
is why I also
and,
really wanted us to meet
yeah.
tonight, because I really wanted Rick to be able to be on here because he was so much of the go-between for a lot of this, and hearing things that we might not have heard, and from on Carla's end and all that too. So
Parker's
yeah.
comment is pretty spot on. I would get phone calls occasionally at like the funkiest time for her to be early in the morning, but for me it was evening, right? So it's no big deal. And I it was horrible. I would put my phone on speaker and I'd go about doing the dishes or whatever I was doing and go, yep, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, that's terrible. And then my wife would be like pointing at it and she's just like with the hand, and I'd go, yeah, and I'm not feeling a lot of sympathy, sadly.
Right.
But
okay, so this first one, so tomorrow we're gonna ask her to do like to de-delegate.
I think it's really important to try to get her to back away from the two things that Missy mentioned, which is tests and social media.
Social media. Okay.
Because those things, that's the,
It's
I mean,
so
in
public
essence,
for us.
it's our public stuff. A lot of the other stuff we can keep, the crazy aunt in the attic thing, but not with the social media and tests.
Do we have anybody on our board that we think might be somebody as a go-to for, I mean, I don't really want to do this big old long editor-in-chief thing. Finding somebody we already have in our midst that might be willing to be that, especially considering we do have associate editors.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I in our current board, I'm not sure. I mean, there are people that are past, like Mike Passo, that might be a good match, but he's also like trying really hard to be retired.
Right.
There's also the associate editors who might want to come up
They might,
to the plate and do it.
you're absolutely right, Missy. They might actually be able to flourish if they weren't being controlled.
Yeah, you just have to be careful that Carla has 100%, she's 100% away from the task, and if we're going to invite somebody to do that.
Exactly.
I have to cut out to another call,
Yeah,
so
I know.
I'll be around tomorrow night. Catch you
Okay.
guys then.
Thanks,
Okay, good night.
Missy. Bye.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thanks, Missy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go here soon, quick soon. But so I just wanted us to kind of be all on the same page as far as this part, and then
I'm on page 371.
Yeah.
One of the things that we need to gently remind everyone is that the executive director basically serves at the pleasure of the executive committee. And
Yes,
so
that's a very, very true, Parker. Thank you for reminding. I mean, that's excellent.
It's not a presidential. We made it very clear that it's not a presidential appointment that's then ratified by the executive committee. It is the executive committee
Right.
who hires the executive director.
It's like a property management company that works for the board of directors for a homeowners association. They serve at our pleasure, and if they don't serve the way we want to, then we need to
It's like your
move
school
on.
boards. They serve at the pleasure of the community at hand, at large. I mean,
Yep, yep.
But I think more to the point, how are we going to diffuse the situation tomorrow so that we give John Henry the hope that things will get better, and we convey expectations for
yeah,
Carla that that team with what John Henry's asking for, because he's ready to say,
she needs to
choose
go.
her or me.
Yeah, he's ready to call for resignation during a meeting. I have no doubt. And he's justified in that feeling.
Because some of these things on here, if it were another organization, another situation, more paid involvement, I mean,
Well, it would never
it
happen because
would never
we would
happen.
have
It would be
all kinds
out.
of ethical stuff that they would have
Oh
had
my
to
God.
jump through.
Well, but we still have that to a certain degree, being part of AGI, you know,
Yep,
and
yep.
all that, and some of the things that we've all agreed upon as part of being joint societies and being part of this whole body. I mean, that's where it's like where does it fall here? You know, I mean, where are we with that? You know,
Yep.
and I think that's the thing, is that he thinks that we're not going to do anything big enough that's going to make a difference. It's kind of what I've gotten.
I would agree that I think is a very reasonable interpretation of what I've been reading as well. And so, and I don't know how I mean, what we have to do is what Parker said. We have to gently, well, we need, and reminding Carla that she serves at our pleasure probably wouldn't be gentle. But
No.
I think that, saying that we've, there is a climate right now within the organization that does not seem to allow us to move forward in a positive way.
Right.
And one of the reasons is that while you've been doing a great job, you've taken on too many tasks, and it is essential that we delegate some of those tasks to other people. And the two main areas that need delegation are tests and social media. If we can see changes with that, then if John Henry felt fully autonomous within social media, he probably that would be one check mark for him out of the 34 that needs to be checked. But it's at least one. And so that's that. Then once Howard's done some looking back at the contracts, then we need to look at the contract, and we need to put her on a plan of improvement. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, even as a teacher, we get put on plans of improvement, and if we don't improve, if we don't improve, we have to be given options.
Right. And one of the things that Tom pointed out in our phone call was talking about just going back to that evaluation, that area that we said where these were the realms of her responsibilities, and the delegation piece was something that was an issue. And so, I mean, I know that she's ex officio on all these committees, but can we say, I don't know. I don't want to dictate anything to anybody about how involved they can be, but
Well, but the point is, you can't on one hand claim that you don't have time to do things and then load up your plate with everything that, I mean, there has to be some prioritization.
Yep.
And chairing every committee meeting, it doesn't.
And she's
really
not
show
supposed to chair any of them. That's the thing. When you're ex officio, you're not the chair of them. Somebody else is supposed to be the chair.
You're there by virtue of the
effectively
office.
She is.
You're
Pardon
there
me?
to make suggestions by virtue of your office, and that's it.
Right. Exactly.
I just sent two things to you. The first email has a copy of the contract that Roberta had, plus a copy of the call for this job. The second email has Carla's current contract, and that contract was for a 3-year period, and it's an at-will extension beyond that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you have them all there.
So
Mhm.
how long have we had? The whole time I've
15,
been here. Okay. So yeah, this
2015.
is okay, so this is the end of year 4 or
So
close to the end.
this is fourth year. So she was extended at World because nobody said anything last year.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
But at least that'll get you something to look through.
Thank you.
I wish there were more time separation between this call and tomorrow's call
I
so
know.
that we could
And
come up with sort of a written list of.
and I wanted to do something like that. I'll be honest, Parker, my job is kicking my butt right now. I'm just
Oh,
telling y'all right now. I'm a case manager this year. I'm in charge of like 13 kids. I'm their case manager. Like I have to run their whole ARD meetings and I have to do probes and testing. And I'm like, I'm a science teacher. Why am I having
No,
to
I
test
mean
their
it's
reading fluency? What?
the
And
the
then I'm
one thing
teaching too.
I enjoyed about the last Democratic presidential debate was the amount of people who said that teachers needed more support and
I just need more time and I just haven't had it. So,
yeah.
and it's a brand new thing that I've never done before and nobody trained me. And we have a new department chair who doesn't know. And so I've had to just kind of wing it. And so I'm not efficient and I'm not getting it. And so once I get there, I will be, but I have like between this and trying to be out for GSA, I'm out, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so I was trying to get it all wrapped up because I have an ARD meeting the very first morning I'm back at school and then 2 like the following week. So this is going to be my last year. They keep moving me around. I've already decided I'm not doing that. I will resign my contract at the end of this year and pursue instructional coaching somewhere or whatever. And then I am looking at an EDD program, but
Mhm.
because I've been granted a funding of it from my mother offered, and I didn't ask. She just
Hey, that's
came out of the blue
awesome.
and offered. She said, "What do you
Okay,
want to
so
do?" Because we
Good
were talking
for
about my
her.
career. And she said, "What do you want to do?" And I told her, I said, "I'd really like to pursue a doctorate. I've been wanting to." She's like, "What's stopping you?" I said, "Funding," because my daughter just started college and everything, and my mom's helping a lot with that, and my daughter has scholarships, and we're also paying too, so that my daughter doesn't have loans. And she's like, "Well, I'll pay for it." I'm like, so, anyways, yeah, I'm like, "Are you sure you're about to retire?" But so, anyways, so I'm looking at it. I probably won't mooch completely off of her, but I'm not gonna. It's given me pause to really reconsider and look at these things, and so I really want. And Nesta is a big part of that because part of my involvement here is somebody in the things I've done here and with curriculum stuff is what actually makes me a good candidate for what one of the programs I was looking at. And so I want to continue to do it because partly I'd like to have more impact through these organizations without feeling like my paying job is kicking my tail so much that I can't give as much as I would like to
Mhm.
give too. So,
If you
anywho,
join
I want to value y'all's time. We've been on here a long time, and
Okay.
I do appreciate it so much. I really, really do. I appreciate all of you.
Well, if I can cut out of my other meeting tomorrow, I'll come in as soon as I can. But I have
And, yeah, no.
it's
Well, and that
it's
one was
crazy.
suddenly scheduled too, right? Isn't that what you
Yeah,
said?
yeah.
It
I mean,
wasn't
the other
originally.
thing's been scheduled for a while, so.
Right, right.
All
So
righty.
One quick
it's a mess.
point.
Uh-huh.
Do we have any documents or anything on spelling out what professional conduct is or any expectations that we have, or is it just sort of a generally understood you don't do flame wars by email?
Yeah.
is that
So
is there any of that in the PM?
I need to look at that. Let me look at that more closely. If not, we really should, especially in today's world of so much written through electronic means that is preserved and reserved and kept, and then so many things that are put out on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. And I know that you kind of had that guide that Parker that you sent, right? The one that
The
y'all,
etiquette thing.
the netiquette thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it bears some chatting, and that's something that we could even say as part of a meeting with our whole board. I mean, we could have a thing on just kind of call it board professional development on, because here's the thing: we go to a conference, I go to these joint society meetings, and they have a whole thing on the professional ethics and all of this kind of thing, and even within our societies, and how do we act when we're at these conferences, and a lot of it was brought up to really looking at interpersonal relationships that could be misconstrued as harassment and things like that. But honestly, some of the things that have occurred by some people, if they really wanted to, and by definition outlined by AGI and some of these other organizations, could be construed as harassment to a certain degree. If the
And
person
that's why
wasn't
I'm
allowing
thinking
it.
that if we
Yeah.
put some definition to that or propose defining that, that would also be another thing that would maybe provide some comfort to John Henry that we are listening and that we realize the problems. And with
So
anything,
we could put a call for like people who would like to work on something like that and actually get something. So it's not just, I mean, or we could do it, or one of us heads that up, but then we bring board input and get, kind of like in a committee kind of thing, like we've done with PM and everything else, to devise our own, or to go back to looking at, because I thought that we had agreed we were adopting that code of ethics. That's what I thought we had done. Like, remember? Do y'all
We talked
remember
about
when?
that. I
Huh?
agree. I thought we had done something.
Yeah, I thought we had done that when AGI was doing that big thing and they went out to their member societies. I'll have to go back and look exactly, but I was at what we were back at our minutes and everything. But I was pretty sure that we were pretty much going on it ourselves. I mean, they put it all out there for societies to basically say, hey, you can take it as is. This is what we're saying, or you can conform it somewhat language-wise to fit your organization. But that's what I remember, because that was like my first. I was president-elect, and I think but I went to the Joint Societies meeting. And I was invited because I was right before I became president, and I went, and that was when we were having that discussion. Then we brought it back to the board and pass that along as well. But I'm not
that
sure
might be a good thing to screen share
yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it would.
No.
We need to give John Henry some notification that we hear you, and
Yes,
we've got
no,
to say,
I absolutely
Working on it.
agree. Absolutely agree with that. So, okay, I'll look for that because I know that we got that.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Rick,
Well, hopefully I can participate in part of the call, but I got at least a half hour, 45 minutes that's just completely not my own tomorrow.
Yeah, I got it.
Rick,
Okay.
a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The document that he sent out yesterday, can you send a copy of that to me? My last 2 pages came out like somebody typed it and then typed right on top of it. So I
Yeah,
only got the first.
I'm just going to respond to your, I'll just respond back to your Carla's contract one right
Okay,
now.
fine.
And I'm going to put,
don't forget to get the
Jay-
revised one.
yeah, that's the one I'm going to
Yeah,
give you.
because he said he had sent out one that was, yeah, like
That's the
there was
one we were looking at today during our
Yeah.
call.
And as I say, the last 2 pages, I have it here, but the last 2 pages looks like somebody typed right across it, so everything is doubled.
Okay, see, this is I'm going to send it to you right now and see
All
if
right.
it comes out okay.
Howard, do you have a second to stay on?
Sure.
All right.
All
All
right.
right, guys, I'm gonna
I'm
go
going
ahead
to
and
quit the recording now and then